We have come a long way with special effects. It seems like just yesterday that X-Men came out and we let this fly. Now our standards are much higher. There is truly no limit to what we can create on a computer, and it has changed the game entirely. Over the past couple of years, we've been spoiled rotten with movies like Tron, Deadpool, and what feels like 1,000 Avengers movies that are breaking new cinematic ground. Today, we'll be looking at 25 scenes that look totally different after special effects. Join us as we uncover the secrets of movie magic. For any of you who couldn't quite come to terms with the fact that the Harry Potter movies had ended, you probably filled that void by rushing to the theaters when Fantastic Beasts came out. We were as happy as you were to see the wizarding world living on, chock full of more magical creatures than we can count or remember the names of. In this video that VFX Studio Image Engine released, we can see what the escape scene looked like before any visual effects were added. We're thinking Eddie Redmayne's audition for Newt Scamander probably just consisted of him shouting at things that weren't really there. The iconic scene where Gollum is engaged in a particularly heated conversation with himself looks a whole lot different before special effects. Andy Serkis, the actor who played Gollum/Smeagol, was very much a pioneer in using motion capture acting. This means he got to dress up in a skin-tight onesie that had sensors all over in order to track his movement. We will admit that in the final product, his character looks a whole lot more sinister and less like he's wearing an alternative wetsuit. We all remember the part in The Matrix where Neo does that incredible backbend to dodge oncoming bullets, right? Even if you haven't seen the movie, you've probably seen it or at least experienced someone in your life trying to reproduce it to no avail. Sorry in advance for bursting any bubbles, but Keanu Reeves had a little help with this insane feat. As we see here, he was strung up with multiple wires and was surrounded by green screen. Later, with a dash of movie magic, Neo looks as though he's performing one of the most memorable acrobatics in all of motion picture history. In Black Panther, the hidden African nation of Wakanda is a vibrant and powerful capital that is brimming with life and overflowing with advanced technology. While in the film, we see the characters interact with the space as if it was any other set, in actuality, they were often surrounded by green screen. Hannah Beachler was in charge of production design and did an incredible job of creating a version of an African nation that could have developed without the violent intrusion of Western colonization. When the first Star Wars movies were being made, visual effects were not used in the same way we use them today. You couldn't just hop on a computer and create a whole universe. Okay, maybe that's oversimplifying modern tech a wee bit. You had to make most things by hand. The company Industrial Light and Magic was formed to tackle effects, and they did a stand-up job. In A New Hope, when we first see the Millennium Falcon flying, what we're really looking at is actually a handmade model. James Cameron made movie history when he took on making Avatar. Instead of getting actors to dress up in slinky loincloths and painting them blue, he decided to use performance capture. This was like the Gollum technique we saw in Lord of the Rings, but instead of just one character, it was multiple. He and his team created an entire world where actors could express themselves as they normally would in a scene, and their performance would translate into their CG character. This is what the first kiss between Neytiri and Jake looked like before and after VFX. Okay, Game of Thrones isn't technically a movie, but the production quality is right up there, so we'll let this one slide. Ever wonder where the Queen of Dragons would be without her fiery friends? Here's a little taste. There is so much in Game of Thrones that has been added after filming, it's incredible to look at the before and after shots. Remember the sea battle in Season 7, Episode 2? Well, instead of setting up a fleet of ships and setting them ablaze, they filmed this in a more controlled environment. A car park in Northern Ireland, to be exact. This scene was made possible with a little extra help from green screens that reached 60 feet in height. In the Chronicles of Narnia, Jadis the White Witch, played by Tilda Swinton, has a particularly chilling palace, one that makes Elsa's from Frozen look like a child's snow fort. In the scene where Lucy, Susan, and Peter go out looking for their traitor brother Edmund, they come across said castle. While in the movie they stand taking it all in actuality they were just staring at a wall. The movie Inception is almost impossible to wrap your head around. It is both pleasantly perplexing and also incredibly hard to keep track of the many layers. With its detailed and fantastical dream sequences, it became known as a true champion of visual effects. The scene where Cobb and Ariadne trudge through water in the dream landscape Limbo was actually filmed in Morocco. The crew found a group of buildings that they used as their base, then brought in water for the actors to walk through. Visual effects were added later to fill out the buildings, but there was a great balance of computer graphics and real photography. The live-action version of Alice in Wonderland, directed by Tim Burton, is a visual feast. In the scene where Alice falls down the rabbit hole, on the way down we see her screaming, flailing, and narrowly dodging multiple objects. For this scene, a lot of different techniques were used to capture the moment. First off, they had actress Mia Wasikowska on a wire rig flapping about as they swung her around. Ah, the glamorous life of an actor. Then, after the footage was complete, visual effects artists went in and added her surroundings, including the piano that almost hits her in the face. In the opening scene of Avengers Infinity War, Bruce Banner crashes into Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum. While it is set in the streets of New York City, for this sequence an entire set was created. We can see from this footage how much went into this action-packed sequence. First off, there's the basic environment that was expertly designed as a base. Then there was a giant Q-ship which sucks up the city. To top it off, they needed to add the CG animated characters along with their weapons and costumes. Hats off to the crew for pulling this one off. We can safely say that Gravity is one of the most stressful movies of all time. If anyone has a fear of space and hasn't seen the movie yet, we do not recommend it. For those of you who have seen it and are still kept up at night thinking of Sandra Bullock floating off into space, these behind-the-scenes breakdowns may help. In the scene where all hell breaks loose, Dr. Ryan Stone is hanging onto her ship for dear life. And we're happy to know that Bullock was actually safe at home on planet Earth and that this scene was almost entirely created by a computer. Thank God. At the end of the Hunger Games series, when the beloved Mockingjay leads the final uprising against the Capitol, a large battle breaks out. The opposing team takes it a little too far, and it ends in the death of Prim and multiple innocent children. For this scene, the crew had to create two sets that together reached around 900 feet in length. One crew member said it was one of the largest green screens he had seen before. Seems like they weren't shy about going big for the finale. When you think of the life of Pi, your mind immediately conjures up images of Pi on a tiny boat in the middle of the ocean, fending off flying fish and trying not to get hit by a whale with a Bengal tiger by his side. In the scene where Pi is first introduced to his feline friend, he does the reasonable thing and decides to jump ship. We can see from this VFX breakdown, actor Suraj Sharma had to stand on an actual boat that was rocking about and fend off the imaginary cat. In The Dark Knight, Harvey Dent's character starts out as such a good guy. He seems like a trustworthy protector of Gotham who is pure of heart and can give Batman a break from all of his world saving. As we know, things take a turn when he loses Rachel and gets half his face burnt off. During the scene when the Joker visits Harvey in the hospital, he is completely disfigured. Here's what it looked like before visual effects burnt the flesh off. Arguably one of the most dangerous activities a kid can be involved with at Hogwarts is flying, if they're not busy fighting off the Dark Lord himself. Quidditch, the school sport, encourages children to fly through the air at alarming speeds, all while trying not to get hit by an oncoming bludger. In this footage from The Prisoner of Azkaban, we can see what it looked like before the effects were added. In Jurassic World, we're brought back to a place where humans are making the worst mistake possible by bringing dinosaurs back to life. Only this time, they're inviting families into a theme park where they can see the creatures for themselves. In the scene where pterodactyls are wreaking havoc upon the poor souls who paid to be there, we see the young boys trying to run away from their bad decisions. In the original footage, it looked much different. Check it out. Does every action actor have to frantically run from things that aren't there? It's really seeming that way. Probably one of the most romantic scenes that was recreated for live action was the dance sequence in Beauty and the Beast. Who doesn't love a beast dressed to the nines while Mrs. Teapot sings her hit single Tale as Old as Time? It's a true classic moment. In the version where Emma Watson played Belle, things looked a little different during preliminary filming. Take a look at what the Beast looks like without his dapper suit. While all new movies are overflowing with so much computer-generated content you can scarcely see anything real, there are some films that use it sparingly. One of the most underrated scenes that uses visual effects is in Forrest Gump. When Forrest meets JFK, he shakes his hand when nature is calling. This was the first time a film used what is called digital erasing. Archival footage was used of the president, and with the help of techniques such as image warping and rotoscoping, Tom Hanks was integrated into it. The Twilight team had a lot on their plate figuring out how to make vampires and werewolves and Kristen Stewart's acting look believable. If you're Team Edward, this footage may change your opinion. In this scene, Jacob stands by Bella's side in solidarity, and she repays him by completely friend-zoning him and giving him a scratch on the head. Seeing Taylor Lautner play the wolf version of himself in his gray suit is enough to convert even the biggest Rob Pat fan. Another classic Disney moment that was redone for live action was the bare necessities scene in The Jungle Book. In the film, we see Mowgli using Baloo as a raft when they sing "Forget About Your Worries and Your Strife." As we can see from this clip, during filming, director Jon Favreau got into the water and played opposite of Neil Sethi, who played Mowgli, in order to get the performance he wanted. In the final version, Bill Murray stepped in to voice the Big Bear. Deadpool wasn't just any superhero movie. It gave R-rated a whole new meaning and also showed us innovative ways to use VFX, breaking new ground for action movies. In this breakdown reel, we see the scene where Deadpool has finally tracked down his nemesis Francis. Within 4 minutes, he has jumped off a bridge, hijacked a car, and killed 3 people with 1 bullet. The Atomic Fiction team were in charge of not only generating CG characters in their fight sequences, but also the vehicles exploding and the surrounding environment. Let's take it back to 1997 to take a closer look at Oscar-winning film Titanic. As you probably can guess, there were multiple techniques used to make the ship look as though it was sinking, but that's not what we want to focus on. Before everything goes to pieces, literally, the character Jack is happy on board, excited for his life ahead in New York.
I can see the Statue of Liberty already.
We found this behind-the-scenes footage of the scene where Jack says the iconic line, "I'm the king of the world!" If you've seen X-Men Apocalypse, then you definitely remember the scene where Quicksilver runs around saving everyone while the mansion implodes around him. This scene was filmed with a Phantom camera which runs 3,000 frames per second. That means something that happens in a blink of an eye can be slowed down to around 15 seconds. During filming, the crew was able to simulate a real explosion and send the camera through it at 90 miles per hour, catching every detail as it passed. Pretty impressive. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson absolutely outdid himself when he played the role of Will Sawyer in 2018's Skyscraper. While the film is basically a giant excuse to get The Rock hanging off big buildings, the visual effects are actually pretty incredible and will satisfy any action movie addict. While The Rock did a ton of stunts for this film himself without rigs, there were a couple of moments where he had some help. In the scene where he has to jump from one building to another, we can see how they did it. We hope you enjoyed watching these scenes with us. If there is anything we missed that should have been covered, let us know in the comments below. The visual effects field is changing so rapidly that the odds are we're gonna have to keep remaking videos like these every couple of weeks just to cover the incredible work that's being done in VFX. Thank you for joining us, and be sure to subscribe to our channel to keep updated on movie magic.